And today on the bench we have a Uniden Bearcat model BC145XL 16 channel scanner. Customer sent this in. The main complaint is low volume. So actually the note says, let's see, low volume, may need caps replaced, may need cleaning, check speaker, jack, put new BNC chassis mount please, may need alignment, check speaker, yeah, speaker. Yeah, it definitely has low volume. Now one thing to note is he said about installing new BNC jack. This doesn't use a BNC jack. I don't know if he thinks maybe that's broken. I'll have to contact him. That's actually looks exactly like it's supposed to. There's no antenna with this. It's got storage underneath here where the factory antenna would have set. I went and pulled one of mine. This is what the factory antenna looks like. This little, telescopic antenna. But this is the antenna connector. It is not a BNC jack on these. This just plugs in. So, and there's nothing wrong with it. That works just fine, just like it's supposed to. So, yeah, I'll have to contact him about that. But as far as the complaint goes, low volume, yeah, absolutely no doubt. I've got it plugged in. We'll hit weather channel. And I don't know if you can even hear that. The volume I have turned up the whole way. That's the stop. Maybe you can hear that. Maybe not. It's really, really low. And it is not the internal speaker, because if I had plug in an external speaker, so that's coming out of a external speaker, yeah, it's still really, really low. So, let me get this unplugged. So, of course, this operates off of a wall wart. And this is a vintage scanner. Absolutely no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Get this cord wrapped up a little bit here. So it doesn't turn into a bird nest. Get my antenna out of there. So, I've already popped the screws out of it. Now, he'd said he wants to get this thing working for when he goes on vacation. I guess they go to a shoreline somewhere, so he can listen to marine channels, ships and boats and whatnot. And a lot of people would ask, well, why would you use such an old scanner? My God, 16 programmable channels. I think my father had one. I've got it somewhere. It's not a 145. It was a slightly later version. Stored more channels, but it was black, where this one's brown. But I used that one for years, and it's out in the garage, I think. I think that one's still sitting up on the shelf. I just use another old one, but these are still fine. They work good. They're good receivers. You're just not going to be listening to modern trunk-style systems, but for analog listening, like around here, I can still listen to the fire department and emergencies. Now, not police. They're, especially in Pennsylvania, they're on that scrambled trunking system. But in Maryland and Pennsylvania both, I can still listen to fire and ambulance services on a scanner like this. Like he said, marine channels, so anything that's analog, as long as it's within the frequency range of the radio, would work just fine. So I took the cover off of this thing here, as you can see, and the first thing that I noticed was, yes, we have that nasty glue. Scanners were not immune to the same crap that they use in CB radios. Yes, we have lots of green, crunchy parts. So there's some of that nice, highly corrosive and conductive glue right there. You can see it running down the capacitor. Yeah, all the big caps have it. It's kind of hard to see, but it's all poured down in here. It's across all this bank of diodes. It's all around these caps. If I had to take a guess for this low volume complaint, now there may be other problems, but if I had to take just a quick initial guess looking at this thing, glue or caps or both. So that's going to be, and he'd said, about recapping it. So yeah, that's the first thing I'm going to do. It's not like there's a lot of them in here. What do we got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, I guess there's a good bit. 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Oh, what's back here? 19, 20, 21, 22, 3, 4, 5, 6, 20, like 27 maybe. But still, that's not a huge amount, you know, compared to a lot of the stuff I work on. So yeah, I'll go ahead and recap it. I'll get all that nasty corrosive. It's not so much the corrosive part that's bad. I mean, that's bad enough. It eats the leads off of components. But when it gets to that really hard brittle point like it's in here where it's dark brown, it becomes conductive. You can check that stuff with an ohm meter and you'll actually measure your resistance there, because it gets to the point where it actually starts to conduct electricity. And that's a lot of times what happens. Your signal, your audio, whatever circuit it might be affecting, you know, that it's actually touching, that's what it's doing. It's shorting that circuit out. You know, it's not a dead short. But it's just like sticking a resistor in there across whatever part of that circuit. So, you know, it could be sinking a signal away. I'm going to say it's probably an audio circuit problem. The reason I say that is if it was the audio circuit, if it was the receiver circuit, you know, so like one of the IF mixing stages, something like that, and I turn the volume full clockwise, I would expect to at least hear noise. Even with the receiver being halfway dead, the audio amplifier in one of these things, yeah, there's still going to be some noise there. Yeah, there's really not. With the weather channel booming signal booming here at this bench, I get that weather channel very loud. You know, I can barely hear it with the volume turned up, and there's definitely no hiss noise. So yeah, I think it's mainly in the audio circuit. So let me get that fixed up. We'll see. If it's not the electrolytic caps or the glue, we'll do some diagnostics on here and see what else we might find. Okay, the dentist is in the house. So yeah, I'm going to say this is probably a glue-related problem. Now to actually have the board extracted. And Uniden was nice enough to make at least these style radios fairly easy to service. Everything plugs in, so there's 3 large plugs, there's 3 spade connectors here, and then there are 2 ground wires. There was the one that was here, and then there's another one that comes up from the RF shield down there to the underside of the board here. But yeah, so just desolder 2 ground wires, and then everything else just unplugs. Yeah, I'm going to have to replace a few parts on this thing. If you can see how green that is, well, that shows up or not, but around that ferrite PDAF resistor, yeah, it's just eating away down here at this lead where it was touching. More importantly, you've got, I'm trying to find it in the camera view. Where in the hell am I? Right? You got this transistor, and then right, actually it's in front of it. Right here, there's a ferrite bead, and there's a small signal diode right there. There was a huge glob of glue that was very dark brown right there. The instant I touched it, yeah, it just, the lead's just eaten off. It's not even attached. So, yeah, that's a good chance that's definitely some of the problem. Or it may have been touching, but yeah, the instant I touched it, it just, boink, it just fell apart. So, yeah, I got to put a new diode there. Doesn't look like any other parts. So I might replace 1 or 2 of the resistors or diodes over here once I get these caps out, because they're surrounded in glue, so they're probably going to be eaten away pretty good too. But yeah, if I had to take a guess, that's probably a big part of it right there. And I did test it with an ohm meter, and yes, this stuff is conductive. It's just like a resistor. So no doubt in my mind, that's probably where a lot of the audio was going in this thing. It was just getting burned up as heat energy in that stupid glue. So let me continue to it. Pick my implement. That's probably the best one of my favorite dental picks. And get to it here, get all that crap cleaned off, and put a couple new parts on here. Like I said, I'm not even gonna bother trying to replace, you know, penny parts like resistors and diodes. So it's just easier and cheaper just to install new ones than it is to spend 5 minutes trying to clean the stupid lead off. So let me get to it and I'll be back. Okay, so it's now been recapped. A bunch of diodes and the resistors that were, any of them that had any corrosion on them, I just went ahead and replaced them. So there's some of the glue that was removed, and all of the parts other than the electrolytic capacitors. But yeah, some of these resistors, I mean, I'm not going to bother trying to take all that crap out of there, get that cleaned off. And a lot of these other ones, they were just green with corrosion. Same thing with the diodes. I mean, the one Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that one was actually corroded off. You look at the end of that wire right there, and the end of the diode. There's no shiny metal, so I think it had actually already broken in half. You know, what am I going to do? Spend 5 minutes trying to, if I can get it separated there, get all that corrosion off of that one resistor right there? Yeah, forget it. Just put new ones in. So all that's in now. The only other thing I've done is I did, while I had it apart, went ahead and cleaned the controls. So let's just flip this back over. And get the transformer plugged in. And we'll give the old girl a try here. Get my little antenna in. Seriously doubt any of the channels he has programmed in are good for anything around here, but let's try the weather.
In the upper 60s. Chance of rain 50%. The National Weather Service has issued severe thunderstorms.
Yep, so as I suspected, crappy caps. It was probably a combination of two things, crappy caps, because some of those caps actually looked, if you looked at the bottom side, you could see the electrolyte was actually starting to leak out around the leads, and they were starting to corrode a little bit. So I think it was probably a combination of shorts caused by the glue, probably that diode that was just corroded off, bad caps. Yeah, it just wasn't looking good for this poor little thing. So
statements and possible warnings.
So if you have an old Bearcat scanner, doesn't need to be a BC145. Actually, I think there was like 3 or 4 radios. There was like a 140, 142, or a 143, the 145, and there may have been a 4th one. There was like a series in this version of the the 140 series. But yeah, anything in this vintage, and it doesn't need to be a Bearcat scanner, honestly. Anything electronic, it's old, caps, check for glue. I don't care if it's a television, a computer, well, maybe not computers. Usually they didn't use that stuff in higher end electronics, but cheap consumer level electronics, AM, FM radios, scanners, CB radios, anything like that, do yourself a favor, take the covers off, check for that nasty glue. If you see it in there, get it out. If there's any parts that are corroded, just replace them, especially if it's stuff like this. That pile of little parts laying over there, there's probably 15 cents worth of parts over there. A couple, granted I buy in bulk, so yeah, it might cost you $1, if you had to buy all those individually. But yeah, I mean, just replace them, get it over with, get the glue out, do yourself a favor, change the caps, because yeah, trust me, they're way past due too. And you know something? Very likely, if it was working like this one was, it was working, but it was just to the point where you turned the volume up the whole way, and it was just deaf. Yeah, it just, you had no volume coming out of it.
Monday, partly cloudy.
There you go. That's probably all it is. So let me get this thing screwed back together. I've already cleaned up the interior. I just need to, yeah, it looks like it needs a, it hasn't seen a cleaning cloth in a few decades on the outside, so let me get the outside of it wiped down too. And this will be ready to head back to the customer.